All right, today we're diving into something that's, well, it's really tough, but we have to talk about it. We're looking at how speech gets restricted in family and juvenile court. It's a world where the very idea of protection can sometimes feel like a tool for silence, leaving people feeling completely unheard when they need a voice the most. So let's get into it. This is not just a line from some legal drama. This is a real warning given to countless parents. And right away, you know the stakes are just incredibly high. It creates this culture of fear where the very idea of speaking out about what's happening in your own case feels like the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. And that right there, that's the central paradox, isn't it? The very act of raising a concern, maybe about the system or a professional's conduct or even potential bias, can be completely twisted and used against you. It's a real trap where your attempt to protect your child is somehow reframed as you being the problem. And this just shows the massive disconnect. You see, on one hand, parents are often trying to flag legitimate systemic issues, things like professional misconduct or court bias. But on the other hand, the system often turns around and labels them for doing it. Suddenly, you're unstable, you're high conflict, you're an alienator. The focus flips from the issue you raised to you, the person who raised it. So, how does this silencing actually happen? It's not just one single rule. It's more like what our source material calls an ecosystem of silence. Think of it as a bunch of overlapping layers that all work together to restrict what you can say. Let's break down what those layers are. First, you've got the most obvious one, the formal court gag order. This is a judge literally signing a piece of paper that says, "You cannot talk." It's a direct command that can stop you from talking to the media, from posting on social media, or sharing documents about your case. It's basically the legal sledgehammer. Okay, so next up we have the non-disparagement order. Now this one is often a lot broader and frankly more vague. It's designed to stop parents from bad-mouthing each other, but the problem is the definition of disparagement can be stretched to mean, well, pretty much anything, including legitimate complaints about court professionals, and that has a huge chilling effect. Now, this third layer is a bit different. It's not an order from a judge in your specific case. It's actually a law that's already on the books. It's called statutory confidentiality, and it automatically seals records and closes hearings in a lot of juvenile cases. Now, the goal is a good one, to protect the child's privacy, but a major side effect is that it creates a total lack of public transparency. And then you've got private agreements. So imagine you're in mediation. You're under immense pressure to just get your case resolved. You might be asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. This is a private contract where you agree not to criticize a specific person or an agency. If you break it, it's not contempt of court, but it is a breach of contract, and you could be on the hook for a lot of money. And finally, we get to what might be the most insidious layer of all, the informal culture. This isn't written down anywhere. It's that unwritten rule, that threat just hanging in the air, that if you dare to go public, it will be used to paint you as uncooperative or not focused on your child. This implied retaliation can be just as powerful as any official order. So, you see, the key thing to understand is that these 5 layers, they all stack on top of each other. A parent isn't just dealing with one rule. They're trying to navigate this incredibly complex web of formal orders, state laws, private contracts, and unwritten cultural pressure. It creates this powerful system that can feel totally impossible to escape. Okay, so what happens if a parent decides, you know what? I'm going to speak out anyway, especially if they want to criticize a court professional like a custody evaluator or a guardian ad litem. Well, this is where the stakes get even higher and the risks become pretty severe. Speaking out can feel like walking through a field of legal landmines. First, there's the threat of a defamation lawsuit. And let me tell you, even if you are 100% telling the truth, just the cost of defending yourself in court can be financially crippling. Second, many court officials are protected by legal immunity, which basically shields them from being sued for doing their job. Third, you could get hit with something called a slap suit. That's a lawsuit specifically designed not to win, but just to bleed you dry and silence you. And of course, there's always the looming threat of retaliation inside your case itself. So when you look at all of that, is it any wonder that so many people just stay quiet? It feels impossible, but it leads to the most important question of all. Are there any ways to raise legitimate concerns that don't involve stepping on all those landmines? And the answer, thankfully, is yes. While speaking out publicly is full of risk, there are official channels that are specifically designed to handle complaints and criticism. These are pathways where your concerns aren't just expected, they might even be legally protected. So, what are we talking about here? Well, things like filing a formal complaint with a professional oversight body, like the State Bar Association if you have an issue with a lawyer, or a licensing board for a therapist. You can also report problems to judicial conduct commissions or to an internal ombudsman at a child protection agency. These bodies exist for exactly this kind of accountability. Okay, this next part is absolutely critical. A lot of the time, a gag order is written to stop you from talking to the public, but it might not actually stop you from reporting misconduct to one of these official agencies. However, and please hear this, you absolutely must have a lawyer review the exact wording of your specific orders. I'm serious, do not try to guess on this. With all this complexity, it is so easy to feel completely overwhelmed and confused. So let's pivot from all these concepts to a super practical tool you can use to get some clarity on your own situation. It's an exercise our source calls mapping your muzzle. Here's how you do it. Step 1. Gather up every single document related to speech restrictions in your case. Orders, agreements, everything. Step 2. For each one, analyze it. Who is restricted, what specifically can't be said, and where do these restrictions apply? And then, step 3, you boil all of that complexity down into one simple, plain English sentence. And here's what that might look like when you're done. It's clear, it's concise, and it's incredibly useful. Imagine handing this summary to your lawyer. Boom, they immediately get an accurate snapshot of what you're up against. It's an empowering act of just getting organized. So for our final section, let's talk about strategy. Because this isn't just about navigating legal rules, right? It's about the emotional toll this takes and the kind of mindset you need to get through this landscape without completely losing yourself. Look, the weight of these restrictions is just immense. It so often leads to this constant chronic anxiety. You start silencing yourself, even when you don't have to. It can create a sense of learned helplessness. And for anyone who's survived abuse, being gagged by a court can feel terrifyingly familiar, a traumatic echo of past control. It is so important to acknowledge that this fear is real and it is justified. So before you ever say anything publicly, it's so smart to run through a quick mental checklist. Ask yourself, have I reread my orders recently? Am I talking about general policy, or am I getting into the specifics of my case? Have I scrubbed all the identifying details? And maybe most importantly, am I emotionally ready for the pushback that might come? This isn't about scaring you into silence. It's about making conscious, strategic choices. And this all leads to a really essential takeaway. In a high-stakes environment like this one, taking a moment to pause, to think, and to strategize is not a sign of weakness. It is one of the most powerful and protective things you can do. So we're going to leave you with this really powerful reframe. A court order, or an NDA, it can control which channels you use to speak right now. But you know what it doesn't own? Your narrative. It doesn't own your truth, and it definitely does not own your story forever.